Sup, Bone Daddies? Welcome to Homebrew Heresy. I'm the Ever Prince, and today we're building Jack Skellington in Warhammer 40k. And yes, I did just call you guys Bone Daddies, but given the fact my father has a pile of bones on a chair, I think it's pretty fitting. So before I begin, I just want to say, shout out to you random commenter for encouraging me to make this video. And for those of you who did vote on my next topic, just consider this a fun freebie and a challenge to myself. And consider this proof your comments do matter. Alright, back to the topic at hand. If you're new, here at Homebrew Heresy we take your favorite factions and characters and translate them into 40k. So as I mentioned before, the topic of today's homebrew is none other than Jack the Pumpkin King Skellington. And yes, it is his legal given name. And don't ask me how I know. As always, let's cover Jack's origins and lore. And I'm not covering the Tim Burton multiverse theory, mostly because the timeline for that thing makes no fucking sense. Jack is the Pumpkin King and the ruler of Halloween Town, a place where the biggest day of the year, if you couldn't tell, was Halloween. So much so, in fact, they spend the other 364 days getting ready for it. While the town is run by a mayor, it's pretty clear to see throughout the film that there isn't much he can actually do, given he's only an elected official and therefore can't make any decisions for himself. Jack also has the role of the show closer for the celebration. That's right, at the end of all of it, this tall, lanky skeleton man who's in charge of a realm full of demons and monsters just for the chance to frighten and scare people, but never actually cause any harm. Just as the song itself clearly states, they do it just for the fun of it. The problem, however, lies in the fact that Jack has since lost his passion for Halloween, and more importantly, his crown, admitting he'd step down if he only could. Jack has always been the Pumpkin King, and has always succeeded whatever elaborate and terrifying performance he puts on. Who knew being successful, loved, respected, and great at what you do would make a person feel hollow inside? Not me, that's for sure. Jack would, while fleeing from his kingdom, find his way into the uninspiringly named Christmas Town, wherein he would experience something he could not possibly understand. And honestly, neither can I. The Christmas spirit. Overtaken by newfound inspiration alongside the sight of such joy and excitement on display, Jack would instantly become obsessed with Christmas, going so far as to break tradition, cancel all plans for the next Halloween, and study Christmas like it's his final papers. And like most of us, understanding none of it. At any rate, Jack would go on to steal Christmas from the ruler of Christmas Town, Sandy Claus. Once in control, he would set plans into motion, going so far as to have a makeshift sleigh and reindeer made. And while initially he was excited to get nothing but praise and admiration, he would instead be shot out of the sky by tank shells. Yes, literal tanks shoot down Jack out of the sky. Who knew kidnapping and impersonating Santa Claus would be considered a crime worthy of military retaliation? On the bright side, this is one of the only movies I can think of where the existence of Santa Claus isn't kept a secret. People straight up know Santa Claus is real and will go full-on Texan to avenge him. So after being knocked down to Earth and eventually returned to Halloween Town, Jack would go on to learn in his absence that his rival and co-worker Oogie Boogie has not only been torturing Santa Claus but actually gone on to kidnap Sally. I swear this all makes sense in the movie, just actually watch it, it's really good. Now Jack, not being a fan of such practices as kidnapping and torture, would go on to save his friends and actually watch as Oogie Boogie's organs and remains would fall into a pit of lava. So with a pretty poor explanation of Jack's lore and history out of the way, we can begin by covering the Pumpkin King's weapons, armor, and abilities. First off, Jack has his claws, and while a powerful and deadly tools, they are typically only used for intimidation and to help sell his image. Next up, we have Jack's immortality, or his undead nature, I'm not really sure which. But the point that I'm making is Jack is seemingly immortal and virtually indestructible. Like he literally gets shot out of the sky from a tank, falls from the atmosphere, lands on a pile of stones, and is more upset that people didn't like his version of Christmas. Jack also has access to an impressive mechanical sleigh, an airborne vehicle created by Dr. Frankenstein that allows Jack to travel the entire world in one night, sowing mayhem, fear, and chaos wherever he goes, much like the real Santa himself. And while Jack does not wear armor into battle, he does possess insane reflexes, being able to dodge firearms at near point-blank range. And honestly, who needs armor if you can't get hit, right? So having units with either a high movement speed or invulnerability can help reflect this. And finally, the last tool in Jack's armor is neither a weapon nor ability. Instead, the greatest ability Jack has at his disposal is the Holiday Door. These doors allow Jack to travel across dimensions. Now, while in canon these are limited to the Holiday worlds, any faction with access to a similar system of transport could work. So we gotta keep that in mind when it comes to picking our faction. Now then, onto his methods of war. This will help us figure out what kind of models or attachment to look out for. From what we see of Jack, the Pumpkin King uses his enhanced physical abilities and supernatural dexterity to avoid attacks before quickly breaking the distance. Once there, he allows his frightful appearance and reputation to strike fear into his enemies. But Jack doesn't stop at simply terrifying his victims. As we see, he also makes a point to let Oogie Boogie flay himself alive before watching his longtime rival burn alive. Jack is a monster in combat, even if his passion is for the arts. So with his weapons, armor, and abilities covered alongside his method of war, we can begin by deciding what faction we'll be using for this homebrew. My initial thoughts for this homebrew was to use Chaos, mostly due to Halloween Town being a realm full of monsters, demons, and nightmares, not too dissimilar from the Warp in fact. And while yes, that is true, my main issue I found with using Chaos was, ironically, the narrative. You see, Jack is a struggling artist who has lost all passion and motivation. Not exactly something we see with Chaos, aside from all of Nurgle's followers being optimistically depressed. And while I could ignore that and just go for the homebrew altogether, I felt it wouldn't be fair to remove such a major part of Jack's character and story just to make my job easier. Instead, for this homebrew, I decided the faction that best fits Jack Skellington is none other than the Necrons. The Necrons are all spooky, scary skeletons, are all effectively immortal, and just like Jack, many of their nobles and rulers have lost so much of themselves that they no longer have much passion in life, instead choosing to chase obsessions and hyperfixations in order to keep their sanity alive. And of course, the most well-known of Necrons who suffer from this is Trazen the Infinite, a Necron who deals with these feelings of loss by becoming a kleptomaniac, and as someone with multiple Balforce boxes of unpainted minis, I can relate. So let's get to the point of this video, the thing you guys all came to see, the actual homebrew. The Skellington dynasty is of little importance within the scheming courts and councils of the Necrons' fallen empire. Known for their unorthodox belief and practices, the Necrons of the Skellington dynasty possess very few members among its nobility. While all dynasties are heavily centralized among a pharaoh, the Skellington dynasty is even more so, with any rank beyond the typical warden being non-existent. Instead, the pharaoh Jack rules the dynasty, and should any warden even so much as have a thought outside those permitted by their ruler and king, they must beg for forgiveness, or suffer the consequences. Ironically, the Skellington dynasty is one heavily populated by Necrons who have fallen to the Flare virus, making this intensely authoritative structure extremely unprecedented, especially given those suspicions that claim Pharaoh Jack himself has fallen to such blights. Rumors such as these have sprung forth from Jack's extremely unsettling fixation with giving the greatest gift a Necron could receive: flesh. While Skellington will exterminate their enemies, they will only ever fight in self-defense, and only after being made certain that those who have attacked them are painfully aware of their crimes. Otherwise, Skellington and Jack himself seek to spread joy and cheer instead of terror and fear, and all while giving gifts of freshly flayed flesh. Jack does this, assuming that much like the Necrons who crave return to living bodies, the countless sentient races of the galaxy are all deeply attached to their flesh, and as such will gladly appreciate the gift of more. This has led to a vast number of Imperial and Xenos forces horrifyingly discovering massive mounds of flesh and meat piled high, and always within secure and well-fortified positions. While Jack has brought such joyous presents to countless Imperial citizens, there is one individual in the galaxy who is not only deserving of such a gift, but deeply in need. And Jack cannot wait to deliver. And there we have it. I hope that undead deadbeat that is my father is excited to receive several pounds of flesh directly from Jack. And I hope you guys enjoyed the story of this homebrew, because I sure had fun writing it. But not as much fun as you guys will have making this army on the tabletop. So let's get to the wish list. As usual, in creating these homebrews, I like to first look at the combat patrol of the faction in question. From there, I like to see what's inside to best fit our vision. So then, what's inside the combat patrol of the Necrons? First off, the boss comes with a Necron Overlord, and while he can fit as a stand-in for the Pumpkin King, I personally think there's a far better option among the Necron range. So for now, we'll be shelving the Overlord. Unless, of course, you guys decide you want to build a Sally to stand beside your Pumpkin King, in which case, I totally approve. Otherwise, this boss comes with 3 Scorpic Destroyers, which we can easily fit into Jack's use of claws and speed. However, I propose another purpose for them.
Look! Shock! Barrel!
That's right, there are 3 of them after all, and I think it would not only be a fun addition to your army, but a great painting challenge to fit each one of those 3. Next up we have the Warriors, who are just a standard infantry unit, and as a result don't really have much character. And this goes doubly for the Necron infantry. So unfortunately, I don't really have anything creative to suggest you kitbash the Warriors as, but if you guys have any ideas, feel free to let me know in the comments. And for our third unit, we have the Canoptic Doomstalker. This massive mobile piece of artillery could maybe be used as a stand-in for our sleigh. However, given what I'm going to suggest for Jack himself, that won't be necessary. So what would I suggest instead? Well, after looking at all the models across the Necron range and comparing it to what we know about Jack, I think I know exactly what we can use the Doomstalker for, even if I'm not the biggest fan of it. So here's a little peek behind the scenes. At first glance, I actually really wanted to use the Canoptic Scarab Swarm as a stand-in for Zero. I think Scarabs are adorable, and I really wanted to have them represent the bestest boy, that is Zero. But if we treat the Doomstalker as our ghost pupper, not only does our dog get the respect he deserves, yes, I'm a dog guy, but we also ditch the Scarabs to save points overall. Plus, if you want, you can paint the Doomstalker's can a bright red, just like Zero's nose. Now then, with the willing subjects out of the way, we can cover the king in all his glory. And what better way to show one's glory than with a sick ride? That's right, when it comes to choosing our Jack Skellington proxy, I chose none other than the Catacomb Command Barge. This Necron leader unit works as the perfect stand-in for Jack while he's in his sleigh and impersonating Santa Claus. Its ability to boost the OC of nearby units can actually reflect Jack flying across the world and claiming the command zones that are people's Christmas trees. Meanwhile, the Resurrection Orb could be stylized as a lump of coal, and the Necron words that it resurrects could be symbolic of the presents that appear under people's trees. And yes, if you're wondering, this is exactly how my brain works 24/7. Overall, this homebrew army comes up to around 465 points, allowing us to stay within the 500 point limit and allow us to use enhancements to further improve our characters. Unfortunately, GW has cursed Necron players with only 4 lukewarm detachments and no hope of potentially adding more. As a result, we're going to have to settle for a detachment that offers us currently no immediate benefit. We're going to be choosing the Awakened Dynasty detachment, though we're only really choosing this one because it offers us the Phasal Subjugator enhancement. This enhancement allows nearby Necron units to get a +1 to their hit roll while they're near the equipped leader unit. And given our Jack model has a fairly high movement speed, it can actually reach the units in need. This can actually help us make up for the fact that the detachment ability only works for leader units. Overall, this setup allows us to play Jack Skellington in 40k, and overall I had a lot of fun writing the script for this video, and hopefully it'll carry over to my editing, which for anyone wondering takes about 90% of the video's creation. So if you guys enjoy it, why not leave a like and share? And finally, if you like what I do here, why not consider watching another one of my videos? Why not set up your own little crossover battle between the Skellington Dynasty and another homebrew on my channel? Or if you're craving something a bit more controversial, why not look at my attempt to defend one of the most hated combat patrols? And with all that out of the way, I've got nothing else to say. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye!